others. Trance states are of three kinds: trance states as peaceful dwelling, trance states that attract paranormal abilities, and trance states for transacting one's affairs, as a bodhisattva. Discernment is of three kinds: non-discriminating discernment of the emptiness of beings, non-discriminating discernment of the emptiness of dharmas, and non-discriminating discernment of both kinds of emptiness. Skill in means is of two kinds: skill in means in turning toward awakening, and skill in means in rescuing other beings. Vows are of two kinds: vows of seeking bodhi and vows of benefiting and gladdening others. Power is of two kinds: power of reflection and power of cultivation. Knowledge is of two kinds: knowledge as enjoying the happiness of the Dharma for oneself, and knowledge of bringing sentient beings to spiritual maturity.
With regard to the natures of these 10, giving has as its nature the absence of craving, along with the three actions of body, speech, and mind that are engendered by it. Moral precepts have as their nature the three actions of the time of accepting and learning the Bodhisattva's moral precepts. Patience has as its nature non-hatred, vigor, investigative discernment, and the three actions generated by them. Vigor has as its nature effort and the three actions generated by it. Trance states have as their nature just samadhi. The last five all have as their nature investigation of dharmas, because it is said that they are fundamental knowledge, in the case of the sixth perfection, and subsequently acquired knowledge, in the case of the last four. There is an interpretation that the eighth perfection has as its nature desire, resolve, and faith, because vows have these three as its nature. This, above discussion, concerns the natures of the 10 perfections. If we combine each with its retinue, each has as its nature all the accompanying virtues. In order for these 10 characteristics to qualify as perfections, they must, each, be assisted by 7 kinds of excellence: excellence of installation, that is, one must be installed in the disposition of bodhisattvas; excellence of support, that is, one must be supported by the great thought of awakening; excellence of aspiration, that is, one must have compassion for all sentient beings; excellence of occupation, that is, they must be accompanied by the excellence of all endeavors; excellence of means, that is, they must be accompanied by imageless knowledge; excellence of dedicating, that is, one must dedicate one's virtues to supreme bodhi; excellence of purity, that is, perfections, must not be mixed with the two obstacles.
If each perfection is not assisted by these 7 kinds of excellence, the giving, etc., that are practiced do not reach the other shore, i.e., are not permitha. Consequently, giving, etc., insofar as being perfections, must be distinguished with the 4 alternatives, i.e., giving that is not a perfection, perfection that is not giving, giving that is also a perfection, and non-giving that is non-perfection. As for there being only 10 perfections, and no more or less, this is because in the 10 stages one must counteract 10 obstacles and realize 10 kinds of true suchness, no more, no less. Furthermore, as for the first 6 not being more or less, this is because one expels opposing obstacles of 6 characteristics, such as greed, immorality, etc., because one gradually cultivates the various Buddha dharmas, and because one gradually matures sentient beings. These should be understood in accordance with the extensive discussion of other treatises.
Also, the first 3 of giving, etc., are the path of promotion, because they promote great wealth, a body fit for practice, and good companions. The last 3, such as vigor, etc., are the path of decisive triumph, because one is able to subdue the passions and mature sentient beings and the Buddha dharmas. All bodhisattva paths are made up of only these 2. Also, the first 3 benefit sentient beings, because one benefits them by giving goods, one does not injure them, and one is patient in the face of their vexations. The last 3 of vigor, etc., counteract the passions, because, although the 4th does not yet subdue the passions, still it stimulates the wholesome added efforts that counteract them, and the 5th and 6th eternally subdue and eternally destroy the passions.
Also, due to giving, etc., one does not dwell in nirvana, and, duetto the last three, one does not dwell in samsara. They are preparations for the nirvana with no fixed abode. Consequently, these first 6, perfections, neither increase nor decrease, in number. The reason why there are only 4 of the last ones is that they assist the first 6 and cause their perfection, so they neither increase nor decrease. This is because skill in means aids, the first, 3 of giving, etc., vows assist vigor, power assists samadhi, and knowledge assists discernment and makes it grow. These should be understood in accordance with the full explanation in the Sandhinirmikana Sutra. The reason for the order of the 10 is that succeeding ones are attracted and produced by the previous ones, and because the previous ones are confirmed and purified by succeeding ones. Also, the former are gross, compared with the successor, and succeeding ones are subtle, and they are kazi or difficult to cultivate, respectively. Hence the order.
The explanation of the general name, perfection, and the specific names, giving, etc., are as explained elsewhere. Regarding the cultivation of these 10, there are 5 kinds of cultivation: cultivation supported by qualifications, such as vows, etc., cultivation supported by intention, cultivation supported by mental disposition, cultivation supported by skill in means, and cultivation supported by freedom. Supported by these 5 kinds of cultivation, one cultivates 10 perfections and is able to perfect them. Their characteristics are as discussed in the Abhidharmasamukkhya and elsewhere. As for what they include, each of the 10 includes all Lothar, perfections, because they are interrelated. The reason the successor is attracted through the support of the cultivation of the predecessor is that the former includes the successor, which necessarily requires the former. The successor does not include the former because the former does not require the successor. The former is confirmed and purified by the support of the cultivation of the successor because the successor includes the former and confirms and purifies the former. The former does not include the successor because the former does not confirm and purify the successor. With regard to cultivation of the basis of simplicity or mixture, there are 4 alternatives in their mutual relationship, i.e., giving that is not a perfection, perfection that is not giving, etc.
The reason there are really 10 but said to be 6 is that you must understand that the last 4 are included in the 6th, i.e., discernment. The reason they are broken down into 10 is that the 6th includes non-discriminating knowledge and the last 4 are all categorized as subsequently acquired knowledge, because its object is worldly truth. As for the result of these 10, 4 are impure, excluding the result of disentanglement. 4 are pure, excluding result as retribution. Still, some sources say that the perfections have 5 results, which is claimed on the basis of their mutual assistance or due to the combining of the 2 phi, impure and pure.
The 10 perfections and the threefold learning are mutually related. Learning consisting of moral precepts is threefold: moral precepts as conduct, that is, correct avoidance of dharmas that one should avoid; moral precepts as embracing good dharmas, that is, correctly cultivating and realizing dharmas that one should cultivate and realize; and moral precepts as benefiting sentient beings, that is, correctly benefiting and gladdening sentient beings. These are common and non-common to the 2 vehicles. Their great depth and vastness is as discussed in other sources. There are 4 kinds of learning consisting of samadhi: the samadhi of the brilliant light of the Mahayana, that is, because it can emit the brilliant light of knowledge that thoroughly illuminates the principles, teachings, practices, and results of the Mahayana; samadhi like a king in accumulating merits, that is, because it freely accumulates boundless merits in the same way that the power of a king is unequaled; samadhi that protects virtue, that is, because it can protect supramundane and mundane virtuous good dharmas; and samadhi practiced by heroes, that is, because it is practiced by the great heroic beings, Buddhas and bodhisattvas. The objects, counteragents, great capacities, results, and activities of these 4 are as discussed in other places.
Learning as discernment is threefold: non-discriminating discernment of added effort, fundamental non-discriminating discernment, and subsequently acquired non-discriminating discernment. The nature, support, causal conditions, objects, and activities, etc., of these are as discussed in other sources. These 3 discernments all exist in the first 2 states, i.e., state of class, or gotra, and state of equipment, as seeds, and as actualities only in the state of added effort. 2. Discernments are manifested in the state of thorough understanding, and 3 exist as seeds, because there is no added effort in the state of the path of insight. In the state of cultivation, the 3 kinds of discernment exist as seeds or actualities up through the 7th stage, and from the 8th stage on, 2 are actualities and 3 are seeds, because the effortless path is contrary to added effort, and because all functioning of advancement arises spontaneously in the pure contemplation of subsequently acquired knowledge. In the intimate state, there are 2 kinds of discernment, as actualities and seeds, because the actualities and seeds of added effort have both been abandoned.
In the case of inclusion by natures, learning as moral precepts includes the perfection of morality, learning as samadhi includes the perfection of trance states, and learning as discernment includes the last 5 perfections. Taking into consideration their assistance, all 3 learnings and 10 perfections include each other. In case of inclusion according to function, learning as moral precepts includes the first 3 perfections, because they are by nature equipment, self-substance, and retinue of the precepts. Learning as samadhi includes the trance states, which are the 5th perfection, and learning as discernment includes the last 5. Vigor includes the 3 learnings, because in all cases it stimulates those 3. From another point of view, learning as moral precepts includes the first 4 perfections, because there are the first 3, as above, as well as protection, in vigor. Learning as samadhi includes trance states, and learning as discernment includes the last 5.
With regard to the 10 perfections and the 5 states, all 10 exist in the 5 states, and in the state of cultivation their characteristics are most evident. However, in the first 2 states, the seeds of the perfections of bodhisattvas of sudden awakening are of the 2 kinds of pure and impure, and the actualities are impure only. In bodhisattvas of gradual awakening, they are of both kinds, as seeds and as actualities, because these bodhisattvas have already obtained the pure contemplation of the emptiness of beings. In the state of thorough understanding, the seeds are of both kinds, and the actualities are pure only. In the state of cultivation, both seeds and actualities up to the 7th stage are both pure and impure, and from the 8th stage on, the seeds are of both kinds and actualities are pure only. In the state of culmination, perfections are exclusively pure whether as seeds or as actualities.
In the causal state, prior to the state of result as Buddhahood, these 10 perfections have 3 kinds of names. They are named remote perfections, that is, during the first incalculable eon, the power of giving, etc., is weak at that time, and the perfections are subdued by the passions and are still incapable of subduing the passions. Consequently, passions become active unintentionally. They are named proximate perfections, that is, during the second incalculable the power of giving, etc., gradually increases. They are not subdued by passions, and they are capable of subduing passions. Consequently, passions become active only intentionally. They are named great perfections, that is, during the third incalculable the power of giving, etc., gradually increases and is capable of decisively subduing all passions. Consequently, the passions never become active again. Still, this is not ultimate, because there remains the subtle obstacle to that which is to be known, both as actuality and as seeds, as well as the seeds of the passions.
There are innumerable different kinds of these 10 perfections, but out of concern for prolixity we have limited ourselves to the essentials. Even though these 10 are all really cultivated in all 10 states, still, one is cultivated in each stage in accordance with its dominant characteristics. Even though the practices of the 10 stages are innumerable, all are comprised in the 10 perfections.
7. The 10 obstacles. The 10 kinds of obstacle are as follows. The first obstacle consists of the quality of being an ordinary being, that is, it arises from discrimination in the 2 obstacles, because ordinary beingness is established on the basis of their seeds. When the path of insight of the 2 chickles appears, their followers only culminate the 1 kind of seed of the passions, and are named acquiring the nature of saints. When the path of insight of bodhisattvas appears, they culminate the 2 seeds, and are named acquiring the nature of saints. When the two paths of insight of reality appear, the seeds of those two obstacles certainly do not attain maturity. Just as light and darkness definitely do not occur together, and just as when one side of a balancing scale rises the other side sinks, so must it be with the principle of opposing dharmas. This is why there is no error in our system of the simultaneity of the two natures of ordinary and Arya.
The Sarvastivadins ask, if during the path of non-interruption one is already devoid of the seeds of the passions, what is the use of producing the path of liberation afterwards? We reply, because the moments of eliminating passions and realizing their cessation are different, and because of the need to abandon the coarse natures of the class. Even though one is devoid of the seeds of the passions during the path of non-interruption, still one has not abandoned their quality of unfitness. In order to abandon that, one therefore produces the path of liberation and realizes the cessation through discrimination, which is unconditioned, of this class of passions. Even though the path of insight is born and also eliminates the results of action of the evil destinies, etc., still here we now speak of passions that can generate these results, because they are their roots.